Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are well today. I want to give you a message that's definitely changed your life. Let's begin and stay with us. We live in a culture that thrives on comparison. From the moment we open our eyes in the morning, we're flooded with images of other people's lives, their accomplishments, their beauty, their wealth, their happiness. And without even realizing it, we start to measure our own lives against theirs. We ask ourselves if we're doing enough, if we're moving fast enough, if we're good enough. But here's the thing about comparison. It's a game you can never win. There will always be someone who seems to have more, who looks like they're further ahead, who appears to be living a better story. The more you compare, the more you lose sight of your own path. You start living not for what fulfills you, but for what might look impressive to someone else. And that's when you begin to drift away from your own purpose. The irony is, the people you compare yourself to are often comparing themselves to others too. Everyone is caught in the same cycle, chasing standards that don't belong to them. The moment you decide to step out of that race, something powerful happens. You stop asking, "Am I better than them?" and start asking, "Am I better than who I was yesterday?" That shift is where growth begins. That's where you reclaim your energy, your clarity, and your joy. Because the truth is, the only person you ever need to compete with is the version of yourself you were yesterday. Fulfillment doesn't come from looking outward, it comes from looking inward. Too often we confuse success with fulfillment, and they are not the same thing. Success can be measured by numbers, by titles, by possessions. Fulfillment can't. Fulfillment is quiet, it's personal, and it's deeply rooted in living a life that aligns with your values and your purpose. You can achieve everything the world tells you to chase and still feel empty if you've never taken the time to focus on yourself and understand what truly matters to you. That's why focus is so important. When you put energy into yourself, your growth, your health, your learning, your relationships, you create a foundation that no comparison and no external measure can shake. The world will always push you to meet its definitions of success, but fulfillment is something only you can define. It requires slowing down, paying attention to your own needs, and being brave enough to choose what feels right for you even if it doesn't match what others expect. And when you begin to live from that place, everything changes. Work becomes meaningful, challenges become growth, and achievements finally feel real. That's the power of focusing on yourself. It's not about ignoring the world. It's about showing up to it whole and grounded in who you are. We've been taught to believe that putting ourselves first is selfish, that somehow focusing on our own growth and well-being means we don't care about others. But the truth is the opposite. When you neglect yourself, when you ignore your needs, your values, your dreams, you can't show up fully for the people around you either. Focusing on yourself is not about building walls, it's about building strength. It's about making sure that you are grounded enough, secure enough, and clear enough to contribute in meaningful ways. Think of it like oxygen masks on an airplane. You're told to put yours on first before helping anyone else. Why? Because you can't help another person breathe if you can't breathe yourself. The same is true in life. If you're constantly drained, constantly seeking approval, constantly chasing someone else's version of success, you will never have the energy or clarity to truly give. But when you take the time to invest in your own growth, when you know who you are and what you stand for, something shifts. You stop moving through life in reaction, and you begin to move with intention. You become someone others can rely on, not because you sacrificed yourself, but because you strengthened yourself. And that strength is what makes it possible to inspire and support the people around you in the best way possible. We spend so much of our lives chasing a definition of success that was handed to us by someone else. It comes from society, from family, from the constant noise around us telling us what we should want, how far we should be by a certain age, and what accomplishments should make us feel complete. But the truth is, those definitions don't always fit. They're general, they're external, and they rarely consider who you are as an individual. Defining success for yourself is one of the most important shifts you can make, because it gives you permission to step off the treadmill of comparison and finally walk your own path. Maybe success for you isn't a title or a number in the bank account. Maybe it's the ability to spend time with your family, or to create something that matters, or simply to wake up every day with a sense of peace. The beauty is, there's no universal formula. And the danger is, if you don't define it for yourself, the world will do it for you. and you'll spend your life chasing a goalpost that keeps moving. When you pause, reflect, and choose your own definition, suddenly your progress feels real. Your achievements start to matter because they mean something to you, not just to everyone watching. And that's when fulfillment begins to replace the endless chase for validation. Life isn't meant to be a race where we're constantly looking left and right to see who's ahead or who's behind. Yet so many of us live that way, always comparing our pace, our progress, our milestones to someone else's. The problem with that mindset is that it blinds us to the value of our own journey. When you spend your energy trying to keep up with others, you miss the lessons, the growth, and the meaning of your own path. Running someone else's race will always leave you exhausted because it was never designed for you in the first place. The truth is, your journey is unique. The setbacks you've faced, the challenges you've overcome, the opportunities you've been given, no one else has walked exactly the same road. And that means no one else can measure what your progress should look like. When you let go of the need to compete with others, you start to notice something powerful. Growth doesn't happen in comparison, it happens in authenticity. It happens when you take the next step that's right for you, even if it looks different from what everyone else is doing. That's where confidence grows. That's where fulfillment begins. Because the moment you stop running in someone else's race and start walking in your own, you realize you were never behind. You were always exactly where you needed to be. The problem with comparison is that it tricks us into measuring progress the wrong way. We look at someone else's life and assume their achievements somehow diminish ours, as if there's only one scoreboard and only one winner. But life doesn't work that way. The only real measure of progress is who you were yesterday compared to who you are today. That's the standard that matters. Were you kinder than you were yesterday? Did you push yourself a little further? Did you learn something new, even if it was small? Those are the victories that build a meaningful life. The danger of chasing someone else's progress is that you'll never feel satisfied. No matter how much you achieve, there will always be someone ahead, always someone doing more, always someone appearing to live a better story. But when you turn your focus inward, you begin to see growth where it actually happens, step by step, day by day. Progress becomes less about competing and more about becoming. And the beauty of this mindset is that it removes the pressure to be perfect, because perfection isn't the goal. The goal is movement. The goal is growth. The goal is to be a little stronger, a little wiser, a little more you with each passing day. That's the kind of progress that lasts, because it comes from within and no one can take it away. When you take the time to focus on yourself, to really understand who you are and what drives you, something remarkable happens. You gain the ability to show up for others in a way that feels real and lasting. Leadership, at its core, isn't about authority or position. It's about influence, trust, and connection. And those things can't be faked. They come from a place of authenticity, and authenticity comes from knowing yourself first. If you don't know your values, your boundaries, your strengths, and your weaknesses, how can you expect to guide or inspire anyone else? People don't follow titles, they follow clarity. They're drawn to those who stand firmly in who they are, who communicate with honesty, and who lead with consistency. By focusing on yourself, you build that clarity. So in the end, it all comes back to one simple truth. The most important work you will ever do is the work you do on yourself. When you stop comparing, when you define success in your own terms, when you choose progress over perfection, you begin to live with clarity and purpose. And from that place, you don't just build a better life for yourself. You create the capacity to lift others, to inspire them, and to lead with authenticity. Focus on yourself not because the world doesn't matter, but because it does. And the best way to make a difference in the world is to start by becoming the strongest, truest version of who you already are.